Okay, so welcome to this lecture, week 3 lecture. English starting. Yeah, this is the first slide. So looking basically at the various forms of contracting in project management. Basically, then we look at other issues later. So the first thing we'll definitely talk about, look at the full turnkey projects, and then we also look at the partial turnkey, the traditional client coordinated, and we have management contracting. Cool. So when you are starting any projects, especially when it comes to maybe construction work or sometimes installation of equipment and all that, there are many ways you can go about it, and here, when you ask somebody to design and build something for you, it may be a facility, construction work, or equipment. When you ask someone to start working on it to maybe a contractor, maybe you need the thing, but you are unable to do it, so you contract someone working on it for you, and you give it to somebody. For example, your company needs a software to start for procurement software to analyze and look at all the bids and all that and come up with something. You may need to get somebody to design and construct it or to build it for you. And the advantages and disadvantages, of course, you just such a design and build systems. For advantages, you can talk about the responsibility which is placed in the hands of one organization, so that they are responsible for it. So you don't need to be purchasing, okay, I purchased this thing from here, the other one from another organization, or everything will be in one. So there's a problem, you can easily trace it to one contractor or one person who is working on it for you. But and a disadvantage, of course, is about when that person you select to work on it for you is unreliable, unstable, then everything is like you put all your eggs in one basket. So there are pros and cons, depending on how you look at it. Okay. Then you have management, contracting, and construction management. All right. So with management contracting, that we have you as the purchaser, then you may have the designers and management contractor there, and then works contractor. So all these people, they come together, they work on it. So you always have to see yourself the purchaser. You need the thing. Okay, so you need to contract somebody to work on it for you. Now, so you have direct relationship with the designer, all right, and you also have direct relationship with the contractor who is going to work on the work. Okay, so we are looking at both management contractor and works contractor. So there are two different contractors here. Those who work on the physical thing and those who work on the management, like if it's a turnkey project, those who look at transfer, training, and all that. And in construction management, the purchaser, you as a purchaser again, can have direct access to the management contractor, direct access to designers, and then you also have direct access to works contractors. Okay, that is in construction work. But in managerial works, you may not have direct relationship with the works contractors, because your subject matter is about management. So it will not really fit into the works you may not need to talk about work stream. For example, if it's about consulting work, right? They would need yours is to talk to the designers and then the management contractor to work on the consulting. But the consulting center, construction works and those things, they are not your responsibility. So you don't go, that's why you the purchaser, you don't have direct link with the works contractor when it comes to management contracting. But construction management, because you will definitely need the work done, the physical infrastructure is also part of the contract. So you have direct relationship with the works contractors. Then there are various terms that we use in this contracting, put it that way. And this is mainly concerned with turnkey or other similar projects. All right. So first one is BOOT, which is build, own, operate, and transfer. In another circumstances, if you are the project management company and you have been contracted to build something, you build it and you own it, you operate it for some time, and then you transfer to the person or the client. All right. Like I think there was one international hostel in the University of Ghana, what's the name? That's the university didn't have money to build that international hostel. So they contracted a construction firm or an investor who came to build it. And that investor will build the hostel. They will own the hostel. The university will give the contractor land, the investor a land. And then they will build, the investor will build, they will own the building, they will operate it. And after some years, they will transfer it. That happens when the investor has finished recouping the money he or she has invested in the business. Then he would now give it back to the owner of the land, like University of Ghana. So sometimes they give them 10 years to build, own, and operate it. So all the monies for the first 10 years will go to the investor. And after the 10 years, they now transfer to the university. So this is some of the arrangements here. And after the 10 years, the university will now take it and then now operate it and own it forever. Then we have the F-boot, which is to finance. The only thing added there is finance. Build, own, operate, transfer is still as it is, but the here the investor or the finance, the construction firm or the contractor will be the one to pre-finance all the costs of the construction. The first one, maybe the financing may be partly done by the investor and then the investor, or everything will be financed by the investor. In case the investor or the project management company, you are responsible for looking for finance for the project, then the finance will come in, then it becomes a boot. If you are not responsible for looking for finance, then it's only the boot. Then you have the BOO without the T, that you build, you own, and you operate. In that case, you are not going to transfer it back to the owner or the client. You own it probably forever. Then you have BOL, you build, you operate, and you lease. So in that case, you, the investor or the project management company, you build, you operate it, and then you can lease it to the client, right? You lease the client may be paying for it slow or small in installment, and later they may own it, or lease agreement applies. Then you have DBOM. That's you design it, you build it, you operate, and you maintain. Here, there's no ownership. So it's just about designing. This is like typical construction work, or even if it is network systems. You design it, you build it, you operate, and you maintain it. So you don't own it. It's owned by the client. But yours is to make sure there's maintenance for a good period of time. Then we have depot. That's you design, you build, you operate, and you transfer. You don't maintain. Once you finish operating for some time, then you transfer it back to the client. Then have boost. As you build, you own, you operate, you subsidize and transfer. So build, own, operate. That one, you know, subsidize here is a new term, which means that the client who may acquire it, the transfer system may acquire the thing you're talking about at a reduced price. Because probably you have operated it for some time. So when if the building should cost $100,000, maybe at the time you are going to give it out, because you have to recoup your 100,000, you just let them pay 50% or 20%, and then you give it to them. Yeah. Then you have BTO, build, transfer, and operate. That one, when after building, you transfer it to the BTO. After building, you transfer it to the client before you operate it. So the client will now have the deliverable. Then you can now, they can contract you to operate it for them, because they may not be able to operate it. Sometimes, like some complicated aircraft, after it's built, it is sent back to the owners. But if the owners cannot operate it, the one who built the aircraft will send their people to come and operate it for a while, and then they can now train the client's people to be able to operate it, and they can give it to them. Then we have build, operate, transfer, both. So build, operate, transfer. Once you build it, you operate it. You don't own it, but you just transfer it. You can operate it for a while. But whilst you are still operating it, it's still owned by the contractor, the client that you have operated for. So these are several ways by which you can acquire something if you don't have money yourself. You as a client, you can acquire. But if you are rather the project management company, you can also engage clients in this kind of ventures. All right, then we have BOT contracts types. You can have a construction package where the project management company is responsible for the construction work. They have the operational package where the project management firm is responsible for operating. You know, remember we have the BOO, right? The OO, that's operation. Okay. Then financial package, when the project management company is responsible for supporting the client with financing options. Then the last option there is revenue package, where the project management company will have to help the client to price and generate revenues from whatever they are the project they have delivered. So it depends on the arrangement between you and the clients that will result in whatever package it is. Then advantages of BOOT contracting strategies. So if you use BOOT system, okay, it results in some additionality. What it means is that you cannot do everything yourself, so you get an external contractor to help you, result in credibility. Normally, people you engage in those contracts are people who are subject matter experts in their area, so you can contract them to do it for you. Efficiencies, yes, people can do things better than you, so you get them to do it. Benchmark, yes, they get international standards for you. Technology transfer, yeah. When they come and do it, you also have their technology in your enterprise. Then privatization, it helps to get a private private companies or private entities to also participate in this business affairs. Sometimes public companies can be privatized when they are not doing well. They are transferred. At the point, I think even the toll, before they stop the toll collection, I had a toll or something like that, like private individuals pay some money to government, and then government will allow them to do what? To use it. Yeah. and then they generate their revenue. I don't know how that works, but yeah, those are possibilities. Then you have all balance sheet financing. It helps off balance sheet financing because it means that you, the company, you are not responsible for looking for money. So it will not be on your balance sheet as financing. It's just someone will just do it with their money, and then you will enjoy later when they transfer it back to you. Then we have the 4Cs approach in building new things or acquiring new things in the BOT system. One is to challenge the existing services. See, the way you do things, you need to challenge it. That, oh, maybe this may not be the most efficient way. That way, you start thinking of getting something different, right? So after you challenge, you compare with other alternatives to see which ones will work for you. Then you consult. You also need to talk to subject matter experts to know exactly what or people who have even used similar things before. You can consult. Then you have to ensure competition. So it's not just one person, but you try to see whether there can be competition, and also when you finally get it, whether it becomes a more competitive point for you, or it is only just change. So the change should be in competition, so that the in-house things that you used to do should result in a better result when you engage someone else from outside. All right, so then we come to PPPs. All right, private-public partnership or public-private partnership, whichever way. There are advantages. We need to understand how these things work. So sometimes the public does not have money, right? So if the public does not have money, then they bring the private sector in to come and build, operate, transfer, that kind of thing, all those things. So sometimes public sector skills and capacity can be supported by private sector partner. Okay, so like technical skills, maybe not everything is done. Like some universities engage private sectors, CEOs and other things to come and teach, so they can be able to relate things to important things for students. Then we also have sharing of risk, of course. If the public and private people partner, they result in sharing of risk. Continuous improvement, yes. PPPs can facilitate this and support larger and more complex infrastructure projects. Yes, when the public and the private sector come together, they can pool resources to do that. All right, so these are some of the advantages. But it is also criticized because sometimes they are poorly negotiated. Like mostly in the developing countries like Ghana, I had, for example, when they are trying to privatize public entities or assets or businesses, what happens is that they will downprice the whole thing. If it is 200,000, those in charge will downprice it and say the person should bring 50,000, and then 150,000 they will share it. Those so illegal way. So if you don't negotiate with the private sector, they are profit oriented. They can beat down price. Sometimes it's just corruption. Sometimes the public sector may employ a lot of people, even though the company may not be making so much profit. But when the private sector comes, they are going to sack a lot of people so that they can make more profit. That is their motive. Their motive is to make profit. All right. All right. So to get these businesses or public-private partners, all these things running, we need to get people who are interested, all right? Or we need to get, we need to get people who are interested to partner each other, the public sector and the private sector. And we could have those companies or enterprises or entities which are financially freestanding. So for those people, the private sector will undertake the projects on the basis that costs will be recovered entirely. through charges for services to the end user. So when they take over, maybe sometimes they will not be charging fees, but when they take over, they say that thing has now been privatized, so you have to pay for it. Then we have services sold to the public sector. So the project, under this circumstance, the project costs are met by charges that are levied by the private sector provider on the public sector body, which lets the contract. So this one is not the individuals who are paying, but the public sector body. Maybe the ministry will pay some money to the person, to the private sector, and they will take charge of the whole thing. Like waste management. In the past, or in many developed countries, is the metro office that pays for waste. They collect the money from people from their salaries and tax. The tax that people pay, out of that they pay for waste management, so they don't collect money from their individual household directly. Because if you ask people to pay, sometimes they will not pay. So, and there will be garbage on the streets. So the thing is, whether you pay or not, it's taken from your tax revenue. So everybody will want to deposit or discharge their waste properly. Then we have joint ventures where the public and the private sector will come. They work on it together and share profits. Yeah. All right. So when public and the private sector comes to finance or to fund projects, there are some risks that are associated with those mechanisms. And those ones, we have design and construction risk. Sometimes there will be differences in the preference of design and construction, commissioning and operating risk. When the thing is finally done, who is going to operate with it? So when you come together, there's always that confusion. Then demand risk, sometimes be then one side will be asking for certain things that you may not be able to afford. Then final residual value risk. Sometimes after the thing, if it's about maybe operating a bus and the bus is now old, they want to give out the bus to someone, who are always going to say, but this one, what is the price? You know, like when senior public officials are going on retirement or after change of government, they give them some things, they should pay some money, something small, they take big car, that kind of thing. It happens when you have joint venture. There will always be valuation issues, technology and obsolescence. Sometimes you partner with someone whose technology is very weak. All right, so if the person's technology is very weak, it means that you cannot be able to get the thing done for anybody. That person whose money or that person whose technology is weak or low, they may not be compatible. Like the public sector, normally they don't have state-of-the-art technology, so it's always a problem. They may have regulation risk. Sometimes you start something and then the regulatory authorities may say no. Sometimes in Europe, for example, there's this law that I forgot. There's a law that really that work against anti-competition, anti-competition law. When you come together and you have a big company, you don't want people to compete with you. Those laws are there. And then project finance risk, yes. How are we going to finance it? Who and who are going to be part of it? How much will each person contribute? Then contractor default risk. If the contractor default in doing what they are supposed to do as a private sector, you are the public sector, what are you going to do? All these things must be clear, but they pose risk if they are not really clear and if there's nothing you can do about them. Okay, we've done this already. So the one is looking at the types of cash flows that we have. Okay, so when you now have financial support from private sector, or you private sector, you have partnered the public sector, there are types of cash flow that come. All right, we have the cash inflows, cash outflows, opportunity cost, depreciation, and all that. Depreciation is not really a cash item. It's just an allocation for loss of capital equipment for use. If you use a machinery, car, plant, and all that, we assume that part will go. So normally it does not involve the movement of cash. All right, but when it comes to cash inflows, and so we have cash inflows and cash outflows. Cash outflows are your expenditure, what you spend on. If you want to start a business, all the money you spend in running the business, starting it up, buying equipment, or outflow, anything that you spend on. Inflows are revenues, anything that comes to the business. The net cash flows are your inflows, you less your outflows, how much you gotten, how much you spent. If your outflows are more than your inflows, you made a loss. But if your inflows are more than the outflows, you make a surplus or a profit. That is how it works. Then opportunity cost of capital. So opportunity cost basically means that instead of me putting my money into project A, why should I put my money in project B? So there are options. So we have to look and see which one works best for us. That is an opportunity cost. So you don't just enter into any contract without considering the other alternatives. So yeah, there are examples that I want you to, this one we can't solve it online, but I'll just explain it and then I'll let you, these things you need to take time yourself and spend time and go through it. Now, here we have the net cash flow of each year, and then here we have the cumulative cash flow. All right. So let me explain it. In year, what we call year zero is now, as we speak, is year zero. It's not yet 1 year. At the beginning of the year is year zero. When you have now invested something, it is normally in brackets, which means it's an outflow. All right. And the cumulative, so that's the net cash flow for year zero. It's minus 200,000. That's how much you have spent. And cumulatively, it means we are adding up. Cumulative means adding up, adding up, adding up. So cumulatively, we have only 200,000 at this time. That's how much we have spent. Then in year one, we generate income of 50,000. When you add 50,000 to your expenditure of 200,000, it will mean that now you have a loss of, you have only paid 50,000 out of the 200,000 you have invested. So you are still with 150 to pay. So that's how we do until we get to year 4, where our total inflows, okay, your total inflows equals our total outflow. It's inflow 50, 50, 50 times 4 at this point. And that's why now we have zero cumulative cash flow. It means that we've not made any profit. That's a break-even point, for example. Year 5 before we now have profit cumulative cash flow. So the net cash flow here is 50,000. That's when we start making some profits. Yeah. I think so. This is for project B. It's the previous one for project A. This is for project B. So you can have similar things. Project B, rather than their inflow, the initial inflows were so low, but it runs up after some time. All right, 20, 20, 20, but 80, 80, 80. So those things will work out somehow. So you'll be subtracting it until you get to this level. So you see that there are more cash flows. Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. Then we have weaknesses of the have we done accounting return already? Okay. Okay. I think it's supposed to be accounting rate of return, but it's coming at this time. But we'll look at the accounting rate of return, the ARR approach of it. This is basically, we are looking at investment appraisal here. So when you look at the accounting rate of return, we are looking at how much we will get out of a particular project, in terms of the profitability. Okay, so if we remember, we talked about opportunity cost earlier. If I decide to put my money into this project, how much will I get? If I decide to put it in another project instead, how much will I get? That's how it works. Right. Then, so for accounting, the weakness is that it takes no account of the project life cycle. It's just going to tell you that this is how much you'll make in a year. This will be your total revenues, and it doesn't care if everybody or no, if the project is going to stay for 5 years or 10 years. It's just looking at how much money you can make in a particular accounting financial year. So in working with what we call present values, later we'll look at the present values, but we use certain things called the discount factor table. Discount factor. Okay. If you come across discount factor, have you come across before? Did you do anything in finance, for example? Have you taken financial management courses in financial management?
Yes.
So you've come across discount factors, right?
Sure. Somewhere at that level.
Okay. All right. So you need to revise those things so we don't have to spend time on this. So the discount factors are good for converting our future values into present values, right? So 10,000 today is not the same as 10,000 5 years from now. Okay, 10,000 today is worth more, because if it's 10,000 5 years from now, you need to, if you are going to get 10,000 in 2025, you need to discount it. By that time, what 10,000 can buy today, it cannot buy it in 2025. And that's why we need to use these things to discount those, depending on the rate of inflation rate or accounting rate, depending on the rate they will give you or the rate you will use to discount. But normally, the general practice is to discount those things by inflation rate, because it means that inflation will have chopped part of the thing, so you can't really buy the same thing. Yeah. Then we have the NPVs, what we call the NPVs. I hope, because you've done discount factor before, you know the NPV. So we use the discount values. Yes, you multiply your discount factors by these are seen as the future values, and then you will get the net present values. All right, in that case, so you can also, you see that, oops, so if you want to look at it from this direction, you now have, you see that the 50,000 at the end of year one will now be 46,000, but the same 50,000 will reduce 34,000. So time, when we say time is money, that time has actually chopped a lot of this money. So with time, so that's how we discount them. We need this to understand how this discounting works. We need them for computation, and then we also need it for discounted payback period, for example. When you have this, the advantages, it helps. It helps you to know the exact values you are getting, not the future nominal values, but the real present value that you are getting from those things. Then we have program boards skill composition. Okay, so the program board skill composition, you need procurement and contracting skills. Those who can help you with strategy that help with the procurement of local labor. We need the stakeholder engagement skills. You need to, so when you have a program board, those who are in charge of the various projects, that's how we have project board, we will have program board, so they would need these skills. People with procurement background, people with stakeholder engagement background, because program means you are going to engage a lot of stakeholders for the respective project. You need stakeholder system, customer service, we need to make sure that people, you are going to work with a lot of people. So you need that kind of support. Then we have program milestone and Gantt charts, Gantt chart preparation. You need to understand how Gantt charts work, so you can prepare it. Then we also have financial and program budget management. You need to have people with legal background. So all these are needed to form a program board, not just somebody. Or we like just bringing anybody to boards in Ghana, but it should be people with professional skills that can provide support. So the project board function, what do they do? They have to make sure they support the entire implementation of the project. They approve project plans and budgets, and they take ownership to make sure that the project actually works according to plan. Okay, so project responsibility charting. So you have the A, B, and C. The A are companies, the departments, or the people who are involved in the project. Then you have the milestones for the B section, milestone activities and tasks. And then the roles are the C. All right. The responsibilities. So here you have the various departments that are there, and here you have the activities, and then what people are going to do. So this could be like the various departments. Remember, we did something on organizational charts for projects and also for functional projects. So assuming we have accounting department here, if you have accounting department here maybe the project activity will be preparing of budgets, and then under this column you need to assign responsibility. Okay, to who from accounting department will work on this activity. Mr. A from accounting department. So you see that that's how it works too. It's how this, so this chart actually helps you to know who and who to go for the various activities. They have responsibility charting levels: level 1, level 2, level 3. So the level 1 is at a global or program level. If you have a big project, people who are responsibility levels are level 1, the bigger level. Then we have the level 2, which are at the project. 2 or more projects makes a program. So the various, so level 1, for a typical example, is a program manager. That are the people who will be here. Then level 2 are project managers. So the 2 or more project managers will report to the program manager. And then another project, you may have other team leaders who may report to the project manager, and the project manager also reports to the program manager. So that is the previous. You can even have level 3 and not have level 4. But now we limit ourselves to level 3, not to make it complicated. So when you are selecting a project, there are so many considerations you need to put in place. I think our time will be over soon, yeah. So we can't be able to finish the project selection criteria now. So I think we have just 2 minutes to end this. So maybe we'll end and then we'll come back and finish it. Is that the case? This one will end, and when it ends, we'll come back and complete it. Come for the. All right. So when it ends, please let's log in again. Or are you busy? Do you still have some 30 minutes after this time?
Let's continue.
So let me. I'm coming.